let's start with the dialogs. How dialogs works, we'll see. In the Android, there are multiple types of the dialogs. We'll see. Let me create new module over here. I'm going to create new module, and this phone and tablet module. Say next, and here I'm going to say dialogs. We'll see different dialogs. How to deal with or how to work with the dialogs, we'll see. So it would be initializing the module. Now dialog is something, what you can say, user interactive notification. User is going to interact with it. It is like the status bar notification. You will be having date picker dialog, time picker dialog, you would be having custom dialog, you would be having alert dialog, yes no kind of. Or if you think that I want to create my own dialog, that is also possible. So you would be creating something called as custom dialog. We'll see how that thing works. Let me start the emulator, this Android emulator, and this, start it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create sample layout. Let me go to resource layout and this, and here let's try to build some layout. I would be having linear layout here, linear layout. Your orientation would be vertical here, orientation would be vertical. Okay, instead of text view, let me have button. I would be having few buttons like this. See, button id at plus id and say btn alert dialog. We would be having this thing as alert dialog. Let's create some text at string and say btn alert. If you don't know what is this, please check our simple value resources demo. So you would be getting to know what do you mean by this at string and other things. Okay, let me assign some value over here. You can say alert like this. Okay, match parent instead of wrap content. Then we would be having date picker. Instead of this, you can have date picker here. Here also you would be having date picker. It is going to choose the date. Date picker is also one kind of dialog. Then time picker, which is going to select the time. Say time picker, and here you can say time picker. Okay, see time picker. Then there is something called as progress dialog. You can get the progress kind of thing. So here progress dialog is generally related to the spinner and the horizontal progress. Spinner means rotating, right? Say progress, and after that at the last we'll see custom dialog. How we are going to create the custom dialog. If you want to create your own dialog, how you are going to do that thing, we'll see this custom. Okay, custom dialog. Fine. So we have these buttons like this, we have this UI, and this is our dialogs is nothing but one module. So this whole and soul source is available on the GitHub. Just go to the github.com/codecool. Here you would be getting that source code for this repository. Okay, now let me enable the Java 8. If you don't know how to work with the Java 8, you can see the earlier video for Java 8. See jack options. Inside the default config closure, you can say jack options, and enabled true jack compiler you need to enable, and after that compile options and source compatibility say 1.8 and target compatibility 1.8. This thing sync the project. Every change in the build.gradle will lead to the sync. Okay, now here let me have find view by id. Find view by id r.id.btn alert. Very first dialog we are going to see. Alert dot set on click listener, and I can say method reference clicked. This you would be having method reference as clicked. Now here you can check if this view is, or view dot id, view dot get id is exactly equals to r dot id dot btn alert, then do this thing. So here I am going to say show alert. Show me the alert dialog. Let's create this method show alert. CLICKED CKED. Okay, now here what you are going to do, alert dialog. Can you see this thing? Alert dialog dot builder. You would be having builder. Alert dialog dot builder is equals to new alert dialog dot builder. Yesterday we have used builder design pattern. Every method inside this class is going to return the object of same class, right? Okay, now say builder dot set icon r dot drawable dot, not drawable, we'll use map for this, IC underscore launcher dot set message, right? Either you can give the message over here, or you can say get string get resources dot get string r dot string dot message. It is a good programming practice to create this thing external to your source like this. Dot set title, you can have something called as title get resources, or can you see here to the get message, or you can directly give r dot string dot title. You don't need to call that get resource method. See title I'll say, and here as well instead of giving this thing you can straight away give this. Check the get message method. Get message, it is asking you the message ID at the string resource. If you can check this annotation, you will come to know this message ID is nothing but the string ID that you are passing from here, this one. Okay, now I'll stop here, and alert dialog is equals to builder dot create. You can create the dialog, right? You can create what? Dialog. So you can do like this also and say dialog dot show. You would be getting something called as alert dialog over here, right? Here you would be getting something called as alert dialog on your screen. Let's see this, what happens if I'm going to run the code and see what would be happening after running the code. So it's running. Now see the carefully what you have did. On the click of the alert button, you straight away created the dialog. This is the one strategy of creating the alert dialog. You can create alert dialogs using fragments. What you can use? See here, I am going to create one fragment. Go to the dialog, this source main Java, and right click. You can say new. Here you can say blank fragment. Can you see this thing? And here I am going to say my dialog. My dialog. Do not create the XML. Do not even create these methods. Untick it and say finish. My dialog. Say yes. Add it to the Git. You can say yes. So my dialog is extending to the fragment in this case. Instead of extending to the fragment, what I'm going to do is that I am going to extend it to dialog fragment. Gradle is building dialog fragment. Can you see this thing? Dialog fragment from support.v4 package. And people are suggesting this way. If you want to create the dialog, you are going to use this way. This is also correct, no problem. If you want to just create the alert dialog, you can write this much piece of code, or you can create dialog fragment like this. Here you have created something dialog fragment. My dialog is extending to the dialog fragment, and here you would be overriding one method on create dialog. Can you see this thing? On create dialog, and this method is from dialog fragment. This method is from what? Dialog fragment. Okay, now you created the dialog here in the plain manner. There is no fragment over here, but suggested way, create, if you are using fragment, create the dialog fragment and work with the dialog fragment like this. Okay, so here I would be creating private dialog and say dialog, and from here I am going to return the dialog like this. I am returning the dialog. Make sure that presently that dialog is null. So I have created some setup over here, private dialog, and on create dialog is the method of dialog fragment, right? On create is a method of what? Dialog fragment. Now here you are going to create alert dialog. Same thing. So you have written one code, show alert over here. Same method I am going to write in the dialog fragment. Okay, but how you are going to create the dialog? So instead of, just let me show you by running this. Can you see this is nothing but your alert dialog? A dialog which is coming on the top of activity. Remember that this dialog is coming on the top of activity. Your dialog needs the activity. So this is the one way, plain and simple way of creating the dialog, right? But you have to create fragment like this, and I'll write one more method, say show alert dialog. I'll name it as show alert dialog, and here I'm going to run the fragment transaction. So this method would be simple, show dialog. I'm going to write one method which is simple, nothing but what? Show dialog. Now here my dialog, and say dialog is equals to new my dialog. I created object of my dialog. Now every dialog is having capability to show himself. Can you see? Show. I am calling dialog fragment dot show, right? And here I'm going to pass the fragment manager, see get support fragment manager, and the tag you can say alert. You can say your tag as alert. That's it. Now whenever you will do my dialog is equals to new dialog, and you are going to say dialog dot show, this dialog fragments lifecycle method will execute. Remember that whatever you are passing from here, right, whenever whatever you are passing from here, that is nothing but the tag. You need to pass unique tag to every show method. Okay, so from here you are passing the tag. How you are going to access that tag over here? Every fragment knows, see, if get tag dot equals get tag dot equals alert, then do this thing, this your code, whatever code you are going to do over here, please do this thing, right? Please do this thing. If your get tag dot equals alert means whenever you are going to say show, at the time of show you are passing one tag from here, you are passing some tag from here, and in the dialog fragment class or in the my dialog class you are checking that tag. If tag is this, then do this code. So let me copy this, all this code, copy. I'm not copying this and this dialog. So here you can say instead of alert dialog use this dialog, or you can reduce the scope of this. Instead of class level, take it inside the class and make dialog is exactly equals to or equals to null. You have reduced the scope of that dialog. Now see, every dialog is extending to the dialog class. Every dialog, this is alert dialog which is extending to the dialog class. Go to the alert dialog and you can see alert dialog extends app compact dialog, app compact dialog extends dialog, means your alert dialog is nothing but what? Dialog. So you can return dialog here, sorry, so you can return dialog is equals to, means this is a parent is equals to child, which relationship is valid in the Java, and you are returning this dialog, right? Okay, so instead of this, here you are going to pass get activity. Every fragment knows on which activity I am hosted by the call get activity. Every fragment knows on which activity I am hosted by the call get activity, right? Okay, now here show dialog you have called, and instead of this btn alert I am going to call show dialog, means whenever you would be creating the project, what I'm saying, whenever you would be creating the project and you would be needing the dialogs, do not forget to create my dialog class. My dialog is extending to the dialog. Instead of using these things, or instead of going to directly like this, create the dialog fragment and there you can do this thing. Okay, let's run the code and see what happens. Restart the dialog, say okay, and let's see what happens. This is the earlier code, right? Now let's get the new output and see what happens. If I tap on the alert, see alert, now this is coming from what? This method, show dialog method. Are you getting that? This is coming from which method? Show dialog. This I haven't used over here. Okay, now I want to create, can I make this method something generic? So instead of this alert over here, I can get string from here, string, right? And say tag string tag, and here I can pass the tag like this, and here I can say alert. Some more coding standard, instead of passing like this, can we create few constants in the myDialog class? Obviously yes. See public static final and string key underscore alert dialog, or dialog underscore alert is equals to alert. Some standard, don't hard code the values, instead of that use in this fashion. Here also you can pass this like this, dialog underscore alert, or you can say my dialog dot dialog underscore alert like this. Some standard, instead of using hard coded value here or here, I have used the constant in this manner. Okay, now to this alert dialog I want to show two buttons, yes and no. There is one method called as dot set positive button, r dot b string dot say btn yes, right? You can say yes like this. Then presently I'll say null, and third parameter is nothing but, let me check, set positive button. Okay, yes, only two parameters are there. First one is nothing but what is the text of that button, and second parameter is the listener. On the click of that yes button, what should happen? That listener. Presently I'll say null. You can dot say set negative button, r dot string dot say btn no and null like this, and this btn no you can say no like this. Now if I run the code, see what happens like this. If I run the code, see what happens. To that dialog you will see two buttons, yes and no. Alert, can you see yes and no? But nothing will happen on the tap of yes, on the tap of no, nothing will happen. If you want to do something on the yes and the no, instead of this null you are going to provide what? Some implementation. Okay, now dialog interface, you are going to get object of dialog interface arrow. I am going to use the lambda, and like this. Here I would be using lambda, same thing I would be using over here, di arrow this. Set positive button and dot set negative button. Let me check. Okay, two things are there, not only one. Di means on which dialog you have clicked, that dialog, and second thing, which button arrow this. Similarly over here, di means dialog interface, and which button this. Lambda, we have written simple lambda, or if you want not to write the lambda, or if your code is a multi-line, not a single line, so it is suggested by the Java 8, go with the method reference, right? See, void alert button click and dialog interface di and int which button, like this, and you can pass the reference of this method, this colon colon dialog button clicked, and similarly for this, which is a more suitable and more declarative way to work with the method references. Readable, precise, and the readable. So this dialog interface, remember that every dialog implements dialog interface. If you check it, dialog fragment, not this, or say alert dialog. Can you see? Alert dialog extends app compact dialog, implements dialog interface, means object of the alert dialog can be object of this dialog interface, and that thing you are getting over here, that dialog interface. Instead of getting the dialog object, you are getting interface object over here, right? Okay, now which button is clicked, you can check it. If which is exactly equals to dialog interface dot button underscore positive, then do this thing. If which, or else if, you can write else if which is exactly equals to dialog interface dot button underscore negative, then do this thing, or else neutral button, do this thing, right? Or else for neutral button, do this thing. Now what I'll do is that let's have one private void empty. I'll write one method as empty, means for toasting this string message, and here you can say toast get activity, you can have the message dot show, and here I can call empty, you can say positive clicked, then empty, you can say negative clicked, negative clicked, and else it is a neutral clicked, right? So you created the alert dialog, you provided the yes no buttons, and which will output like this. You would be getting a sample toast over here, positive, negative, and neutral. Alert, yes, can you say positive button clicked, alert, and no, negative button clicked. Fine, is that fine? So this is about alert dialog. When you would be using alert dialog, alert dialog can be used when user is having choice, yes or no, cancel or proceed. When user is having choice, it is going to be selected as the alert dialog. We'll see next dialog as your date picker. Okay, now we'll see something called as time picker dialog. Sorry, date picker and time picker. How date pickers and time pickers work. We'll see that. Yes, you can assign. If you want to assign that date and time to one of the text box, you can do that thing. Perfectly fine. We'll see that, how to do that. Okay. Now, let me create one constant over here. Say date picker and time picker. Let me create one constant like date picker and time picker. Dialog underscore date underscore picker. You can say date picker like this. And if get tag, remember that tag is coming from the show method, and that tag here you are checking equals with dialog underscore date picker, right? Okay, if that tag is nothing but what date picker, then what to do, that is going to be decided at here. Now see, here you are writing the code, right? Means you are increasing size of this thing, this bracket. So overall method would be then 500 lines of code. This need to be reduced. You are going to reduce this itself. So what I will do is that, see, private, right, alert dialog, say create, or say show alert dialog. You can do this thing, show alert dialog, and I will call this method over here. Instead of this, I can say return like this, right? And here, instead of doing all the coding over here, what I'll do is that, let me delete this, and you can say dialog is equals to show alert dialog, just to have readability, maintain the readability. Here what I will write, dialog is equals to show date picker, like this, show date picker. Here you can create the date picker. You can keep return type of this is as a parent, or you can do like this, child, one and same. Okay, now here date picker dialog, dpd, don't use such naming, or I'll use good date picker is equals to new date picker. Can you see, first parameter it is asking you for the context, second parameter it is asking you on date set listener, what you are going to do on the selection of the date, then start year, start month, and day of the month, start year, start month, and day of the month, it is asking you, right? So context I can pass get activity, hosted, it is I'm a fragment and I'm hosted on one activity, give me that activity. And activity is nothing but what, context, that you are saying over here. Listener, presently I'll say null. Then 2017 month, 0th month, remember that month will start from 0. In the programming, month will start from 0, and the 1st of Jan. And from here you can return the date picker, that's it. You can return what, date picker. Okay, let me go to the main activity and let me create if view dot get id is exactly equals to r dot id dot btn date picker, then what, show dialog with which tag, with my dialog dot date picker tag, like this. Use the tag my dialog dot date picker, else everything is same, right? Nothing would be getting changed. You have written this very generic method. So you have the dialog, you have the app compact, and somewhat gradle. Let me close it. Okay, now whenever someone is going to click on the this button, date picker dialog, this code would be getting executed, and you would be getting output something dialog which will look like calendar. See what would be the output, you would be getting output that would be similar to the calendar. See this date picker, why not working? Alert is working, but why not date picker? Or code is still running. If get tag dot equals to this, then r dot btn date picker show date picker dialog, that's fine. So this method would be getting called, then this if date picker, if dialog dot date picker, then show the date picker, and this you are returning the date picker from here, that's fine. It has to work. Our code is not getting executed properly. Let me run the code once again and see what happens. Why? Yes, you haven't assigned it. Find view by id r.id.btn datepicker dot set on click listener. You can say this colon colon clicked, like this. Okay, let's write find view by id r.id.btn TimePicker dot set on click listener this colon colon clicked. Then find view by id r.id.btn progress dot set on click listener this colon colon clicked. Then find view by id r.id.btn custom dot set on click listener and this method reference of clicked, right? Okay, now let's run the code once again, see what is happening. Okay, code is getting changed and see you will be getting some calendar kind of thing on your screen. You can select the new date like this everything is ready over there. Okay, and cancel. So this is a date picker that Android has given you. But if you think that you are going to create the calendar exactly like calendar, right, you can build that thing as well. But this is more standard. Android team has very much researched how your date picker should be, and this is they have created. See, it is a swipeable also, very smooth. All the validations are there likewise, right? Now my question to you is that how you are going to get current date, current year, current month and current day? That is my question to you. And for this you are going to see something called as calendar class. Just go to the calendar class and try to make some code over there, and it will show you current year, month and the day. Very simple. Okay, now regarding with this null on date set listener, what you are going to do on the selection of the date, you are going to get three parameters. Can you see? Date picker view, year, month and the day, right? Year, month and the day. See here, view, you are going to get view, and this lambda you can work with. I'm using lambda method reference. This time I'm not using. You can use this lambda over here, or if you think you are going to go with the method reference, that's also fine. Can you see selected year, selected month and selected day you are getting over here? Can I toast it empty? So in the Indian style, I'll make it first is month, sorry, first is what, day, then second is month. Make sure that you would be making month plus 1. What you would be making, month plus 1, because month will always begin from 0. Then hyphen plus year, like this, hyphen year. View is nothing but selected view, date picker or whatever, year, month and the day of the month, and this is nothing but the lambda Java 8 says if your lambda is single line, please don't give this parenthesis. That's it. Fine. So this is also valid lambda. And actually this is the intention of lambda, is writing inline code. Right? If you have multiple lines, Java 8 suggested go with the method reference. Refer with the method over there. Okay. Now today's your work, what you are going to build, how you are going to say show current year, month and the day. Check with the calendar class. Okay. Now let's rerun the code and see what happens. Date picker, I'm going to select 3rd of January and say okay. Can you see 3/1/2017 selected? See once again, I can select May, 26th May and say okay. 26th 5 2017. May is the 5th. Calendar or date picker dialog. Similarly about the time picker, right? What you are going to do is that, see now, if get tag dot get equals get tag dot sorry equals dialog underscore time underscore picker dialog underscore time underscore picker, then dialog is equals to show time picker. You can create the method like this, then you can create this constant, create the constant, right? Time picker, here you can say time picker, and instead of private you can make it public so that everyone can access it. Show time picker. So how you are going to show the time picker? Very simple. Time picker dialog, say time picker is equals to new time picker dialog. First parameter obviously is a context, second parameter is a on time set listener, third parameter is hour, minute and is 24-hour clock. Right, see, context I can pass get activity, on time set listener presently I will pass null or this lambda I can pass here, then hour you can say 6, minute 08 or you can say 8 minutes, and is it 24-hour clock? Say false. No, it's not 24-hour clock. Okay, and then you can say instead of this empty, make the toast. First you can say hour of the day, then plus string, then minute plus minute, and return or say return time picker like this. So this time picker will look like this. Get activity, this much is the lambda, and this lambda is showing you some make text, then 6:8 and say false, it is not a 24-hour clock. Let me run the code and see what happens. Okay, you'll be getting output. See, time picker, something is missing. This I think we haven't shown it. If you can check over here, if view dot get id is exactly equals to r dot id dot btn time picker, then what show dialog with which tag? With time picker tag, right? Dialog underscore time picker. See, it is a well disciplined code. So whenever you would be getting this code on the GitHub afterwards, you would be easily getting to know what's happening exactly. Run the code and see the output, what's happening. Here you would be getting some output. Then progress dialog and the custom dialog are the two important ones. See, time picker, can you see watch? It's the watch you are getting like this. You can change the timing like this. Few modifications are there. You can say AM or PM over here and say okay. Can you see 2050? Right, it is nothing but what? 2050. See the time picker, and this 3 and 8. Yes, it's not a 24, but okay. What we have made is that my dialog. Let's make it true and see what happens. Yes, I think if you select AM or PM, how you are going to differentiate AM and PM, right? AM and PM. See, three things coming from that. One is view, second one is hour, second one is minute. If you select AM or PM, it gives you some different thing, right? Added thing. Time picker, see, it's something different. 24-hour clock is something different, right? Likewise, say okay, right? When you go to the AM and PM, it changes that thing. How to create? So analog clock, right? Simple. Numbers are changing, right? There is one view as well. For the analog clock, you would be getting one view as well over there, right? You can use that view, or making the analog clock is very simple. Calendar class you are going to use, that's it. Now there is one view analog clock. There is one specific view in the Android. There is one view which will show you analog clock. So you would be creating one custom dialog, and into that custom dialog you would be having analog clock, right? So likewise, that would be happening. Okay, so this is about date picker and the time picker. So far we have seen three dialogs, which is alert dialog, then date picker dialog, and then time picker dialog, right? Now next dialog is the progress dialog. This one, second last dialog, which is nothing but what? Progress dialog. Okay, if someone is going to click on the progress button, see, if view, every time I miss this, get id is exactly equals to r dot id dot btn progress. On the click of the progress, you can have show dialog like this, and here you can pass the dialog underscore progress. This key is not there. Let's generate it, not class. That would be the key constant in this of type string. Dialog underscore progress is nothing but progress dialog. From here we are passing some progress dialog, and here if get tag dot equals is dialog underscore progress, then dialog is equals to show progress dialog. This, I want to show some progress dialog, right? See, there is one class progress dialog PD is equals to new progress dialog. You can pass the context as this progress dialog. If you check this thing, I have forgotten to show you TimePickerDialog extends AlertDialog. DatePickerDialog extends AlertDialog. See this, right? And this on-click listener method, can you see, is from the method or is from the class dialog interface. It is not the view.onClick listener. This method is from dialog interface dot on click listener. This method, check the class over here, right? Okay, then where is that progress dialog method? Okay, progress dialog, you can have progress dialog dot, what you can say, set title r dot string dot title, like this. Progress dialog dot set message r dot string dot message, like this. Set message method, what kind of data it is expecting? Char sequence, it is needing the char sequence, means it is needing the string. Then you can do get resources dot get string r dot string dot message, like this. Simple message, right? Progress dialog dot set, can you see, progress drawable, progress style, you can say progress style. Set button, you can set the button, which button, you can say positive or the negative button, you can say over here. Set progress style, there are two types of the progress dialog. One is rotating and one is showing you the percentage. So that rotating dialog is called as progress dialog dot style underscore spinner and style underscore horizontal. Spinner is nothing but rotating and horizontal is nothing but the percentage, right? So let's have the spinner over here. You can have few buttons. Progress dialog dot set button, can you see this method button, which button, dialog interface dot positive button, and the char sequence you can pass it from here. Int char sequence and this, can you see third method char sequence and on click listener, dialog interface dot on click listener. Here you can say get resources dot get string. Nowhere I am using the static hard coded data, I am using externalized data, and this is a good practice. R dot string dot, what you can say, yes, will say what's that button, yes, btn yes, and on click listener you can use the lambda, like this. Over here I am using one lambda, right? So if lambda is a single line, you don't need to provide this, say empty. See here you can check it, if button which is negative then do this thing likewise, and you can, I can say yes clicked over here, yes clicked. And from here instead of returning null you can return the progress dialog, show progress, and this. Let me run the code and see this thing. Say progress dialog. So when you would be using this dialog progress spinner, suppose you are connecting to the web, right? Some third party provider you are connecting, you have sent the request. Until and unless response is back, response is coming back, this dialog should rotate, or the spinner should rotate. This is indefinite, that is going to be rotated indefinitely like this. Okay, now second thing for the progress dialog is this style. You can make it horizontal, percentage, this. Set the progress dialog. Can you see this? Now if you want to have the emulation or the of increasing some progress, we need to use the async task, something called as that. We'll see how to do that thing, but that is not the concern over here, right? That is not the concern over here. Concern is how to show the progress dialog, how to make the progress, we'll see. And there is one method as well. If you want to set some progress, see progress dialog dot set, can you see this progress? You can say 45 in the value out of the 100. 45 you are setting over here. And set max is also there. Progress dialog dot set max, can you see max is 100, means 45 of 100, like this. It will do something like that. Now suppose if you are downloading the 10 songs, so your max would be the 10 and your progress would be by 1 1 1. Every increase in the progress will capture some amount on the bar, so that logic is built in the progress dialog. You don't need to make that logic, you just need to set the max and the progress, that's it. If you are copying files from one folder to another folder, from the size you are going to decide the progress. If you have copied one file, 1, two file, 2, likewise, right? So you are going to decide the max and the progress, that's it. Spinner, then that is a view. Progress bar, that might be you are talking about. There is a view, right? That will progress bar. Fine. So you can do that thing also. So inside the progress dialog there is a progress bar, right? Okay. Now last dialog is nothing but your custom dialog. You are going to create your own dialog. Presently you don't have that much control over this thing. I want to show some image over here. You don't have control. You cannot show image over here. I want to show some image over here. Yes, full page activity can have the dialog. So you would be creating full screen dialog and giving your views inside that. Or you can give some theme to your activity, dialog theme. That's also possible. Okay. Now we'll see how to create the custom dialogs. But generally, dialogs, you don't need to make a dialog as a full screen. Generally, intention of the dialog is something different. Bluetooth, you'd be getting little dialog on your screen. Bluetooth, but Bluetooth is activity. Your activity looking like dialog. So there is one theme to the activity, dialog theme. So your activity will look like the dialog. Okay. Now custom dialog. Let's see if view dot get id is exactly equals to r dot id dot btn custom show dialog, and just you are passing different key, my dialog dot key underscore dialog underscore custom. Create the constant field inside this. It would be string instead of int. and you can have custom dialog. If your tag, if what, get tag, not id, fragment can have id, can have tags, fine. Dialog fragment is nothing but the fragment, remember that, right? Get tag dot equals your dialog underscore custom, then dialog equals to show custom dialog. One method we are writing this thing, show custom dialog. Return presently null to just avoid the error. I am returning what? Null. Now dialog, you can directly do this thing. Dialog is equals to new dialog. So instead of directly returning the dialog, I am going to return the alert dialog. Right, or alert dialog. Let's get the code from the alert dialog. This builder, this, we don't need all these things, or I'll show you something. See, dot set content view, or say set view. Can you see this method set view? Delete all these things. Set view, even delete the icon. Say builder dot set view. It is asking you for view. Can you see what it is asking you? It is asking you for the view object. See here, right? And you can, you know how to pass the view. What I'll do is that I'll go to Android app, say dialogs, here main resources, and in the layout let me create new layout resource file. Name of the layout resource file is the custom underscore dialog. Say okay, like this. Okay, linear layout. Now I can have orientation is vertical already. EDT, edit text, match parent, wrap content. See, hint would be at string, and what EDT, username, right? Hint would be username. Likewise, you can have some ID, at plus ID, EDT, username, like this. Let me copy this once again. EDT password, you can say EDT password, username and password. And you can have login button, match parent, wrap content, and you can say text at string btn login. Login. For looking good, you can give the padding, say 20 dp, like this, padding from all sides. Okay, you have this thing now right in your hand. Can you use inflator to inflate it? You can use the inflator, right? You can use what? Layout inflator. See, layout inflator, from the context get activity, you can get the layout inflator. I'm going to use this method and say inflate which resource r dot layout dot custom dialog, say null, and the false third parameter, and it is giving me one view, say view is equals to this, and builder dot set view is nothing but what? View. Builder dot set view is nothing but what? View. And I can create builder dot create like this. I inflated the view, I got the view, so that I can pass view dot on click listener, likewise view dot find view by id. If I want to get the data, means edit text, if I want to get the data from the edit text, see edt username is equals to what? View dot find view by id, r dot id dot, what you can say, btn, or instead of this let's have the click listener view where is that view? Deleted. View dot find view by id, r dot id dot btn login, I think btn login. Why login is not there? Custom dialog, yes, id, and say at plus id btn login. Btn login dot set on click listener, right? You can give the lambda over here, say empty login clicked, like this. Simply login clicked. Let me run the code and see what happens. You can initialize this layout inflator at the class level. So on the every click you don't need to initialize it, right? Or you can keep this same, no problem. See custom dialog, username and the password. Can you see? Login clicked. Custom dialog, typically customized thing. Pretty straight and pretty clear. What we have seen, how to create the different dialogues. If you can go from on create, if you will start reading on create, it would be much easier for you. See, this is a declarative style of programming, not an imperative style. Everything is functional. Alert on the click, go in the clicked method. What is happening inside clicked? Yes, alert show dialog, and to the show dialog you are passing what? This tag. Okay, now go to the my dialog. If tag is alert, this method is getting invoked, and this is a fully working app with all the dialogues. So this will help you in your projects. If you are building the dialogues, this would be helping you in the projects. So this full application would be easier to understand the dialog hierarchy. Fine, that's fine. Which one? Get tag to differentiate the dialog. See here, to differentiate the dialog. Can you see at the show method of the dialog fragment demands you fragment manager and the tag. Show method demands you the fragment manager and the tag. When this show is going to get called, this on, what you can say, create dialog, or when this on create dialog method would be getting called, you are comparing the tag, because every show is having different tag. Every show is having different tag. If you check the show method, every time you are going to call this show dialog method, this show is going to get invoked, and every time you are passing different tag. For the this alert, tag is different, date picker tag is different, time picker tag is different, for the progress tag is different, right? And from this thing, it is deciding from that tag in the on create dialog method, it is deciding which dialog to show. Means whenever you would be creating the project, make sure that you would be creating my dialog class, or name would be something different, and that is extending to the dialog fragment. And all the required dialogs, means Facebook connection timeout dialog, you would be creating over here. Then you can say server unreachable dialog, you would be creating over here. And from your activities or from the other fragments, you just be calling show and the tag. At that level, means like this, in your activity you would not be writing the code like this. You can show dialog anyways in this manner also, but this is not a good practice. So instead of doing this thing, you would be just calling show dialog method, and the custom implementation of the show dialog method is here, show with some tag. Whatever dialog, write the dialogs, server unreachable dialog, right? There is a error in your id, error id dialog. So my dialog would be having different methods. So presently we have show time picker, show date picker, just for this scenario. Max, there is one method, max and the min. Your calendar is having that method. I'll show you. Date picker dot, so you are thinking in the perspective of the booking, right? Till from this date to that date. So there is one method, set max and min. Some methods are there over here. DatePickerDialog dot update date, not this, but there are methods I have used for few of my projects. Yes, set max date. Can you see this thing? Set max date and set min date. You are going to pass current millis over here. So date would be converted to the long. That is simple. Right? I have used this for one of my project. Fine. Same for the time as well. So this is all about the dialogues. On the GitHub, you would be getting multiple people are contributing with multiple kinds of dialogues. Feel free to use that things. You just need to add one dependency in the Gradle, right? And kindly subscribe the Code Cool channel. Yes, that's all for the day.